As you may know, some of the modern audience types have been very upset at Marvel Rivals. And I recently saw that Concord players, yet believe it or not, there's actual Concord players that exist. And they're also very upset at Marvel Rivals. Of course, there's probably a crossover between the modern audience types and Concord players. And we'll get to all that in just a minute. Let's start here though with a little history. 8 months ago, this post on Our Girl Gamers, titled, "Can we just throw some backlash at Marvel Rivals?" I love how they gave it a serious flair. That just makes it more funny. "I've been on the fence so long with Overwatch for years. It has diverse male body types, and then female characters are copy-paste with a bare handful of diversity, and these diverse female characters are given such a little amount of attention in cosmetics that it's clear they don't care for them. Now I'm watching Marvel Rivals go down the same path. The female characters are all tall, slim, and busty, with a good deal of skin, while the male characters are fully covered, minus Hulk and the Fishman. Namor. It's so clear that they only just care for straight male gamers. At this point, it's just a slap in the face. They know what they're doing. It's disappointing since the MCU did such a good job making women less objectified. Fans of the MCU will be playing this game. Very few people read the comics in comparison, making it accurate for them as a joke. Oh my gosh, that's gotta be one of the most pathetic things I've ever heard. They need to appeal to MCU fans only. Forget the comic fans. Don't make things accurate for them." As if there would even be an MCU without the original comics. And they end the post by saying, "Can we just start making noise on these issues?" You know what? That's also one of the lamest things I've ever heard. Who talks like that? "We need to make noise. Can we make noise on this?" And what's their noise supposed to do anyways? Like, wow, some unhinged people on Reddit are mad. Yeah, I'm sure NetEase is really going to care about that. "I feel like I just waited a decade for my dream Marvel game, and now it's pretty much implied that this game isn't for me." Well, that sounds like great news for everyone else. Imagine being stuck in a lobby with someone like that. The most upvoted comment in that thread says, "Consider my noise added to yours. Just tell me where to direct it." Another top comment says, "Yeah, who would have thought that League of Legends did it best? It's so weird. We've had AAA games with diverse women for ages, and here we are, 5 steps backwards from that." And then people would argue about League of Legends also being problematic. So yeah, I just thought that was all pretty funny. I hope you enjoyed that one too. You know, aside from the brain rot stuff. And now on to more current posts from only 3 days ago on the subreddit for Concord. The post titled, "Any Concord fans try Rivals yet? I'm curious what impressions the fans of Concord have about Marvel Rivals. I'm considering giving it a try, but Concord holds a special place in my heart, and I'm hoping Rivals shares similar qualities." And the OP apparently a top 1% poster over on our Concord. It's a real Concord diehard right here. The top response reading, "It plays nothing like Concord. I personally don't like the movement or shooting at all, and don't get all the hype and praise it's getting. If you want similar gameplay to Concord, Destiny 2 is your best bet. But the PvP in that game is basically unplayable, unfortunately, but the PvE is still good." They'd get a response that reads, "I feel like the majority of the hype and praise it's getting is just because it's one of the first good online Marvel games to come out in this entire period of MCU box office domination, which is waning. And a lot of people who are unhappy with Overwatch trying to signal boost a competitor, the game itself feels pretty dang unpolished and unbalanced compared to Overwatch and even Concord." And this different top comment says, "Why did Concord have to die and Marvel Rivals gets to live? It's not as fun as Concord by a long shot. I hate this timeline." They'd get a response that says, "Well, charging $40 when literally every hero shooter is free was a very big misstep." A response to them reading, "Being free wouldn't save the game, buddy, and Marvel Rivals isn't having success because it's free." This whole chain of comments then especially set off the Concord diehards, who began to go full aggro and get very defensive, which you'll see coming up. As user Pass Foundations would respond to that other user Desfert, where Desfert had essentially said that Concord being free wouldn't have saved it. Pass Foundations responding saying it's one of the main factors of its demise. And that's where we get Desfert saying, "Yeah, let's say it was free to play. Now tell me the difference, how much longer would it last? Even when the game had a free beta, it only hit 2K and kept dropping players. Basically kept the same issues from the beta, and then it died only a few weeks later. It doesn't make a single difference to paint a ship with other colors. If you don't fix the holes, it'll still sink." Desfert then going on to list a number of reasons why they believe Marvel Rivals is successful, and concluding by saying, "Seriously people, stop thinking free to play is the answer for everything. It just shows how clueless you guys are." Yeah, some of them might be clueless, but I think a lot of them are also in complete denial. During the whole Concord saga, the whole Concord arc, we saw so many of these defenders, ignoring, for example, the whole like DI stuff that Concord had. And it wasn't even that they didn't recognize it was there. It's like they wouldn't admit that it was there. They would just do everything they possibly could to dodge how DEI negatively impacted Concord because, hey, they got to do everything they can to defend that corporate policy. Very pathetic. Then we get this hilarious cope that says, Concord failed not because of its design, gameplay, price, or quality as a game, but because it became a target in a culture war. From the moment it was announced, discussions about the game were dominated by negativity. Critics labeled it as dead on arrival, woke, or trash before there was even a beta or gameplay footage. This constant negativity overshadowed the game itself. Despite being fun for those who actually played it, few people gave it a fair chance. The backlash was so intense that even liking the game invited ridicule. In the end, more people criticized Concord than actually experienced it, which made it impossible for the game to succeed. This person is not taking into account how most people didn't even want to play Concord because the hero roster was terrible. It's like, oh hey guys, here's a bunch of losers you can play as. Yeah, gee, I wonder why that didn't work out. Here's another funny exchange with this user Irate Pirate who responds to the OP. Once again, the OP had asked if any of the Our Concord people had played Marvel Rivals. Irate Pirate saying, yes. In fact, my original plan when Concord was coming out was something like, I'm bored of Overwatch, I'll play Concord until Rivals comes out. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible. It's pretty fun. It's not on Concord's level in my opinion, but it's fun. User Icy Ruins responding saying, Concord's level was so high that the game shut down immediately. A different user, Lum Sauce, then chiming in saying, y'all are still here. Figured you people would have stopped hanging around hating a few months after the game shut down, but I guess life moves slow when you have nothing worthwhile in it. And Icy Ruins responds saying that this post was recommended on their homepage. I also find it funny that Lum Sauce is talking about people still being here on the Concord subreddit, when that can also be applied to the Concord defenders. The game lasted all of 2 weeks, and has been dead for months. And then hopping over to the Marvel Rivals subreddit, we've got this post that says, talk about bad takes. And then posting an image from Outlet the Gamer and an article that they made titled, Marvel Rivals has too many heroes for its own good. You're probably familiar with the Gamer. Many channels, including mine, have talked about takes from that outlet, as they're the same type of gaming journalists who often try and call gamers problematic and they're constantly getting offended at things. They were also being laughed at a few weeks ago during the Veilguard arc, as they made a number of articles attempting to defend Dragon Age the Veilguard, only to then later make one where they kinda walk that back a little bit after they saw the public opinion on the game was negative and nothing these journalists could do would change that opinion. As many gaming journalist outlets, for example also IGN, did attempt to defend Veilguard and influence the public in a way that they completely failed at. And now the Corpo Journos over at The Gamer are attempting to insult Rivals and prop up Overwatch, saying that Rivals should have taken more time with its roster, and making a very weird argument that Rivals has released too many heroes already, saying that people don't care about playing them well or trying to learn what their abilities are, which is obviously a really weird thing to say. Like, obviously people want to play their heroes well. They then doubled down on the argument that Rivals has too many heroes, and in the lead up to its full launch, more additions were confirmed for the roster, making it hard to determine who I'd main, and if I would even have enough time to learn all their ins and outs before release. Turns out that I didn't, and now the sheer act of playing Marvel Rivals is daunting. Once again, I find myself comparing it unfavorably to Overwatch. Yeah, this just sounds like a massive skill issue. I only started playing Rivals like 2 weeks ago, so not only did I not play the beta, but I also started it late technically. Don't find it daunting at all, it's a fun game. And I'm not even a great player, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. I know plenty of people probably didn't play in the beta, and they're also having fun with the game, so I don't get what they're trying to say here. Except, it seems like they're trying to make any excuse they can to try and insult Rivals and prop up Overwatch. Continuing, they say, Overwatch turned each new hero into a legitimate event. You would follow each update and tease with fervent anticipation, waiting to find out exactly what role they might fulfill and what they would look like. That won't happen when Rivals adds Sentry. Every new hero was unexpected, but for Rivals, it feels like we already have to temper our expectations after NetEase jumped the gun on its A-listers. Yeah, so I think this point is just terrible. I'm actually a huge fan of the Sentry. He's probably my favorite Marvel hero. I like how he's a very flawed character. I also like the whole Void thing. And then when he merges with the Void, I think that's one of the sickest character designs in all of comics. Regardless, the point they're trying to make here is that Rivals has already used the A-listers in comics, so the next heroes they release aren't going to be very interesting or compelling, essentially, which is beyond absurd. There's still so many A-list heroes that Rivals hasn't added. It comes off like they just don't know what they're talking about. Like, here's some, not including the upcoming heroes in Season 1 and not including villains. But we got like Cyclops, Kitty Pryde, Rogue, X-23, Blade, Jubilee, Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Iron Lad, and Professor X. And they end by saying, I could be proven wrong, but right now I'm not very excited about new heroes to come to Rivals, because we are already dealing with an excessive roster. There is no moderation and a desire to give players a temporary power fantasy instead of easing them into things. This will only hurt the game in the long run, and feeling that way right now isn't a good sign. Well, considering that it's journalists from The Gamer saying all this stuff, then it probably is a good sign, actually. Generally, if you do the opposite of what these sort of gaming journalists say, then you'll be very successful. But yeah, that's it for this one. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. If you enjoyed the coverage, please consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate ya. Have a great week ahead, and I'll see you in the next one.